everybody. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today because we've reached actually a really big milestone on our property. We have officially celebrated our 1 year here in Oklahoma, and it's been a really incredible experience. There has been a lot of changes in our lives, both with my husband, myself, and our children, in the way of just kind of how we live our lives. And then also, just a lot of growth individually as well too, which has been really awesome to see. But the things I really kind of wanted to touch on was the fact that when we moved from Florida. So we moved 1,100 miles away from all our friends and family, basically, to an area where we knew no one. We did kind of know some people, but it wasn't like we hung out with them or anything like that. So we just kind of knew who they were, and it was still God called us here, so we moved here. Now, since then, those people we kind of knew have basically become our family up here. So that's been really awesome. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this because this is 1 year now in a state that we had never lived in before. Both my husband and I are from Florida, and there are some big differences. There's big differences in the culture in a good way. There's big differences in the way people live their lives in a good way. And I have a whole video about why we chose to move to Oklahoma. So that's not something I'm really going to get into now. Um, but I'm going to talk a little bit more on the personal level. And on the personal level, um, for the first, gosh, I want to say 10 months or so, I was a stay at home mom. And this is the first time actually in my life that I had ever been a fully stay at home mom. Now, I have worked full time out of the house. I have worked full time from home, like with a company, but I was a travel agent. So I basically just worked from home and booked travel. And then I've been a stay at home mom that's had side hustles. That's always been my thing. Like, if I was a stay at home mom, I always had side hustles going on, whether it's like crafty or whether I worked part time at a restaurant or something like that. There was always something going on. But this is the first time in my life that I'd ever fully been a 100% stay at home mom. Looking back on it now, there's definitely things I could have done better. Right now, I work part time. I work 3 days a week, and the beautiful thing is the kids can still come with me. And then also we have joined a co-op because we do homeschool, but we've joined a co-op with a couple of our other friends actually, and all our kids get together, which is fantastic because it's all our kids' closest friends. They all get together at one of the mom's houses, and the mom does like Bible studies with them, and does teaching and stuff like that, and does their homeschool work with them. So 2 days a week, the kids are at a co-op now, which I actually think is really good for them. There's been a lot of progress there for them as well, too. But for me, the stay-at-home mom part was a big thing, because you hear so many times about God calling people into the wilderness in the Bible and speaking to them. And I truly believe that the reason why I was home with my children alone for a good majority of the time we were here, because my husband does travel sometimes for work. So there's literally sometimes I am home alone here with my kids. That there every time my husband left for a job, that there was something I learned from God. And I truly believe that in this situation where we live now, that those things wouldn't have been possible. Learning those things would not have been possible without being here, without being out in the wilderness and with the sheep and with the animals, and even having the kids around and stuff like that. There's still things I learned because they're not necessarily going to come out with me every time I move the sheep. And things like that. They're going to, be kids and do kids stuff too. I expect my kids to help out on the homestead, but I'm not going to like work them to death or anything like that. They're going to learn. They're not going to, be forced labor. um, so, there's a lot of times that I got to spend being basically alone with God. And it was fantastic. And I learned so much about myself. There's a lot of things I needed to learn about myself, learn more about my worth and where my worth comes from. I realized that over the years I'd put way more worth in myself as a moneymaker than I did as a mother or a wife. So I really started learning where my worth was actually coming from. And also as, a child of God. And then also realizing a lot of things about my marriage. And it was all positive things that I was learning, because there was a lot of things that I kind of still had a skewed view from my childhood, that I needed to overcome and no longer have those impressions in my mind anymore. Um, Not that my childhood was awful, but there's definitely some things that I needed to unlearn from my childhood. Um, so there's that. And then also too, just the freedom of being out here. In my video that I did the other day, I talked about how Nick Ferguson was coming out here, and he's a major player in the permaculture industry, and he literally helped us like plan our property. And that was like a lifelong goal of ours, of mine and my husband, since we've been in agriculture, farming, homesteading, that kind of deal since 2014, is to have him come out here. And I'll do another video on like a review of that. But to see that happen for us, something we've been praying over for so many years, that when we got a property, we wanted to have Nick Ferguson come out here. And the cool thing about it is we've been here, literally, he came 2 days after our 1 year anniversary of being on the property. And you hear so many times you should be on your property for at least 1 year before you start doing any major work, because you'll actually know what your land is like then, and you'll have gone through all the seasons and everything else. And right now, obviously, we're reaching the same season that we are in the same season as when we moved here. And it's one of those things that it was a really cool moment for me, because I got to see it yet again, how much God was working in our lives and how much he was blessing us, because of the fact that this had been something that we had been praying for a long time. And my husband had actually reached out to Nick Ferguson about a year ago when we first moved on this property about coming out here eventually, but he was already fully booked. And then he actually reached out to us this year saying, hey, like, I know I was never able to come out. Do you still want me to come out? And this man is super booked up. Like, he is not lacking for availability. Nick Ferguson is super crazy busy. But it was one of those things where it's really cool out here to see your land grow and change. And I have a bucket full of trees over here that I need to get planted. I have plants from my garden that were in starter pots that I need to get into larger pots now, sitting next to me. And I got fruit trees actually behind me that I've kind of, my husband and I have created a better plan for where we're going to plant those and everything. And it's one of those things, there's progress. It takes time though. We've been here a year, and I can tell you the actual like major differences are slim to none, because we've added a couple ponds or dug some ponds out and stuff like that. But a lot of it has been learning the land, learning how to manage our land, learning what our land can do, and learning the seasons. Because, man, guys, we've gotten some rain here, and there's been some flooding going on, and we're like, oh, hey, this part of the land's actually super really wet, or this part of the land floods during this time period, or whatever, whatever it may be. And so this past year has been a huge learning experience from us. And, we have our home sites picked out and everything like that. That is on the to-do list to start working on those, but at the same time, there's a lot of work out in the field we still have to do to make that more viable for our animals. And so it's going to be a balance, and that's something that I've really learned. I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from starting a homestead from nothing, is that it's a process. You can make plans, you can have plans, you can create plans over and over and over again, but things are always going to change. New projects are always going to come up that require your attention before others. And it's okay. It's okay to, I don't look at any of the projects we've had as setbacks, because we've been like, okay, we're going to do this project, but oh no, now we have to do this project instead first, or now we have to do this project. And I have a to-do list from the beginning of January, actually end of January, still on my list of things we need to do. But we've done other things in the meantime that have come up instead, and it's okay. It's okay to have that influx of, what you need to do now versus later versus immediately and stuff like that. And some stuff comes up sooner rather than later. When we got that huge rain, there was definitely, we had to take care of some stuff sooner rather than later. And it changed our to-do list. And you have to be, when you're living in this kind of situation, when you're living in a homestead that's just starting with nothing, just raw land and a camper, you have to be willing to make those changes, to be open to them, to know that it's okay if your to-do list doesn't get done immediately, um, and that other things get added to it and whatnot. But it's been a really beautiful experience. It's been really cool to see my husband grow and change, and I know a lot of how he has grown and changed is because of the other men he's around. He's around a really strong group of men. Um, and a lot of them, well, the two that he actually hangs out with the most, one's former military and one's former police officer. And it's funny because when Nick Ferguson was here on property, he actually asked my husband if he was former military. And my husband said, no, he's not. And he's like, you carry yourself like you were. And it's with a confidence. And even his two closest guy friends up here have told him, you carry yourself differently. You have, and I've seen it in him. He carries himself more confidently. My husband's 6'4", so he is not a guy that you can miss easily. And I think a lot of his life, he's a strong, he's definitely an alpha male, but at the same time, he doesn't like attention drawn to him. And so there's that alpha, but with the side of like, I don't feel like being the center of attention kind of deal. And so it's been cool to see him. He still doesn't like being the center of attention. But at the same time, he's carrying himself a lot more confidently. Like I said, I think that has a lot to do with the guys he's hanging out with, but I also think it has a lot to do with the experience out here and the things he's learned by being out here as well. Seeing my kids grow, our 3 daughters, oh my goodness gracious, you guys. One, they've shot up like weeds. They're so tall. But they're a lot more confident themselves as well too. They're a lot more confident on the land. They're a lot more confident going out and trying to experience things and learn things and do things on their own. And it's not for like lack of parenting or anything like that, but my kids have become a lot more independent being out here on this land versus being on a third of an acre cooped up in just one small space. And it's been really cool to see their growth. Their homeschooling has our oldest daughter hated reading coming out here, absolutely hated reading. But now she loves it. We started a reading chart, and I think a lot of that had to do with the reading chart we started, but then also her just growing up and becoming more mature and stuff like that too. But there's been a lot of really good positive changes over the last year. There's still so many changes that have to happen. And well, like I said, in the Nick Ferguson video, I'll go over that a little bit more. I'm not going to go over that here because it's already going a little long. But if you're thinking about moving out of where you're from, or even starting a homestead maybe in the area you are from, be mindful that it takes a while. Again, we've been here a year, and there are definitely changes to the property, but nothing that seems super drastic, at least to us. But that's okay, and know that it's going to take time, it's going to take energy, it's going to take effort, it's going to take money for sure. Even if you are frugal and repurpose things, it's still going to take money. But be okay with that. Be open to the process. Be open to learning new things and really try to enjoy it. There's plenty of times I've gotten frustrated or annoyed because things aren't going the way I necessarily wanted them to go. But then I realized that they weren't supposed to go that way because we're going a different route. Because something else came up that showed us that we should be going a different way. So just be open to the changes, guys. Enjoy the changes. Learn from the changes. And just really open yourself up to what God is trying to teach you. Like I said, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I've had from this past year is the things God has taught me while I've been out here in the wilderness. It's been truly an incredible experience. I'm really excited about this first year. While it doesn't feel like we've done a whole lot, I know we have done a lot. And I'm really excited for what the second year has in store because each year we're going to know more about our land. We're going to learn more about our land, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. And I'm really excited for that. So if you all have any questions about what it's like on the homestead or living on a homestead or whatever, first year kind of deal, drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. And please remember to like, subscribe, click the notification bell, all those good things. And if you want to follow me elsewhere too, I am also on Instagram. You can check me out on Instagram at Muck Boots and Motherhood as well. Hope you all have a great day. Bye.